Hello, Matt. So this is my response to your contest slash thread on 5 songs that really define rock and roll. And to be quite honest, so you started out your video with word association. Now, when you say rock and roll, this is honestly what first pops into my head right here.
If we rock and roll! Rock and roll! Rock and roll! Somewhere! No, this way.
New beef bolognese rock and rolls.
So, yes, that is the first thing that pops in my head when you say rock and roll. I don't know what it is, I just have an association with that movie. So it always makes me laugh when people say rock and roll. But now on the serious side, given some thought to your question, I really have to go back to the roots of it, and it's so fitting that it is Black History Month. But really, you got to take a look at it, and rock and roll was really coming from rhythm and blues. That was one of the biggest influences. But you look at all the music that was being made in the 30s and the 40s. You got blues, you got rhythm and blues, you got country with a little bit of swing, you got swing and jazz. All 4 of those elements influenced the rock and roll that was being put out in the 50s. Now, there's a lot of great artists that were doing stuff in the 50s, but I really had to go with Little Richard, and the song that I would pick would probably be Long Tall Sally, as being one of the most influential. This album here has a bunch of his greats like Tutti Frutti, let's see, Long Tall Sally, of course, Rip It Up, She's Got It. Be nice if it had The Girl Can't Help It. I like that song too, but I'd have to pick Long Tall Sally as one of the tracks because it was so influential to a lot of people, and a lot of people covered it, like the Beatles, for example. So starting out with, you know, early 50s stuff, it was really R&B driven, but you had a little bit of country element into it. And one of the guys that took some of the rhythm and blues and the country elements was this guy here. So Elvis Presley, of course. And you know, if I were to pick a song that, you know, really broke him and really exposed white crowds to R&B, because, you know, he took a lot of the R&B influences around him and incorporated it into his own music, it would have to be Heartbreak Hotel. This, for the vinyl guys, this is the Analog Productions issue of this album. I can't recommend this enough. This is just a wonderful compilation, and the pressing is just phenomenal. So if you can find it, I highly recommend this, especially if you're an Elvis fan. If you're a casual fan, I recommend this album too, because it has its hits. Now, moving on, I think rock kind of hit its peak in the States at '63, and you know, we needed something to really influence the musicians again in the United States. And you know, we talked about the British invasion, and you have to go with the Beatles. You know, this is not by far, in my opinion, their best album, but you know, this is a groundbreaker. You know, '64 here in the States, when this guy was playing, you know, Love Me Do, Please Please Me. If I had to pick a song off this album, it'd probably be Please Please Me. Again, the Beatles were highly influential, and that's what I'm looking for in, you know, some of the defining moments on early rock and roll. And so Please Please Me would be one of the tracks that I would pick out of the 5. Now, next up is another British group. It's not going to be a surprise to anyone that, you know, was highly influential. Of course, it's the Rolling Stones. The song that I would pick, really highly influential again, is I Can't Get No Satisfaction. this is not, this is kind of a greatest hits. This is a re-release from 2003, but I Can't Get No Satisfaction would probably be the next song that I would pick. I play it, of course, but I'm a little bit concerned about YouTube picking up on it and just killing the video. So the last one that I got, so again, taking some of the roots music around him and then making it electrified, I'd have to go with Bob Dylan. So Highway 61 Revisited, going with the song Like a Rolling Stone. Almost sounds like I'm working for Rolling Stone magazine, because I think a lot of these songs were in their top 500, but these are the ones that I think are really groundbreakers. And this was the album which, you know, he kind of broke away from his folkish roots, and, well, he didn't totally break away, but he electrified it. And so Like a Rolling Stone is a hugely influential song. So those are my 5. If I had to pick ones that were defining for rock and roll that would help round out someone's first experience to it. And I think those 5 songs and those 5 artists, really, it's where we get all the rock that branches out from here on there. So like alternative, math rock, like you mentioned, post-rock, metal, yeah, all that has roots back in that, and then you trace rock back to its roots. So, you know, it's all derivatives of something else. I would like to take the time to talk about one of your previous threads. So you were talking about the Beatles and their longevity, and I'd have to say that, yeah, the Beatles are one of those milestone artists that, you know, they're going to be popular even long after I'm gone. One of the reasons why I'd have to say that they're going to be huge even after I'm gone is because they are ones that really changed their sound from beginning to start. And in the 8 years that they were together, I mean, they had a huge impact. So, like, you take an album like this, Sgt. Pepper's, and I mean, this was groundbreaking. I mean, this really kicked off the idea of a concept album, and, you know, they were groundbreakers in terms of artwork and packaging. Love 'em or hate 'em, I mean, there's no one that can really compare to these guys. And, you know, there's always a question about who's the greatest rock band of all time. And, you know, I'd have to say the Beatles, even though they're not my personal favorite. But you have to look at, you know, how much they influenced other bands. And I mean, even artists today are claiming that they're an influence. And you don't have many artists like that. So if you look before in history, I mean, you look at the Mozarts, the Beethovens, they were highly influential, and they did different things. They expanded their artistic work. So, you know, Beethoven, for example, he is what's considered a transcendentalist. So you talk about the Romantic period of classical music. We would not have the Romantic period if it wasn't for Beethoven. Beethoven was the one that broke away from the classical forms and went with his own forms that was so highly influential. It's the same thing with the Beatles, and, you know, the Beatles are always going to be recognized in history for what they did and the groundbreaking work that they did do. I mean, that's not to take away from other artists that were groundbreaking, but, you know, in that 8-year span that they put albums, I mean, their first album and their last album, they don't sound anything alike. They're completely different. And you look at the group themselves, I mean, all 4 band members were writing songs. All 4 band members were singing. I mean, you don't have too many bands that have all 4 band members singing or writing songs. It's not like the Rolling Stones, where you only have Mick Jagger singing, and you don't have like the entire band writing songs. You look at the Rolling Stones catalog; most of it is written by Jagger and Richards. That's it. I mean, whereas the Beatles, I mean, all of them are writing songs. I mean, Ringo, yeah, he didn't write so much, but he did write and he did sing. So that's what I think as to why the Beatles are going to be popular way, way, way beyond when we're long and gone. So your second question was about vinyl and, you know, longevity, and honestly, it's nice to see this uptick in vinyl interest, and I think there's always going to be a human need to have some type of physical product. I mean, people want to hold something in their hands. They want to read the liner notes. With a digital download, you don't get the same experience, and I think there are always going to be collectors that are going to want a physical artifact. On a hard drive, yeah, I can just copy it over from person to person, and I mean, it's not something physically that I can hold in my hand, and if I could just copy it, I mean, what's the point? I can stream music, I could stream whatever I want, but you know, I'm the type of person that wants a physical product. So as long as there is collectors, I think there will be a desire to sell a physical product. I know there are going to be companies that are going to want to make some money by selling a physical product. So that's my thoughts. I don't know where vinyl's going to go. I mean, we could see an uptick in CDs, maybe not. But, you know, super audio CDs. It's a great technology, but you know, and there's a little bit of an upswing with the super audio CDs. But you know, it's not like this experience here, where you got this nice big artwork. So I don't see this going on forever, but I think it will have a nice ride for a while. Will it be replaced by something? I hope it's something that has better sound quality, of course, but those are my thoughts. Hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good evening.